Is my child a late talker, or should I be concerned about autism? I get this question a lot of times, and it usually shows up in a scenario looking like this, where I have a parent in front of me who probably was at an event with other kids and their kid, and maybe their kid, 2 years old, around that age, is not putting words together, not talking, and friends and families are looking at the kids, comparing to other kids, and they're saying either, oh, your child is not talking, there must be something wrong. Oh, you have grandma in the background telling you, oh, boys are late talkers. Their child's uncle didn't talk until like 3 years of age. And you find yourself wondering, is my child just a late talker, or should I be concerned about something else like autism? If you found yourself wondering about that question, this session is for you because that's what I'm going to cover today. Hi, I'm Dr. Lou Ferndi. I'm a pediatrician, and in today's session, I am going to break it down. And this is after a conversation I had with an integrative colleague of mine while we're recording a video for my YouTube channel. And we'll be talking about a series on autism. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe so you don't miss any of the episodes. So, is my child a late talker, or should I be concerned about autism? So I'm going to go with three things we talked about. Number one, stop counting the number of words and start focusing on connection. So a lot of times, like I said in that scenario, there are some kids who are late talkers, and the only thing they're not saying is the words, but then the connection is in place. What do I mean by that? Once you're home, you want to pay attention to your child. Does your child try to bring you into their world where they're telling you, Mommy, look at my toy, look at my truck, not just telling you to look for something to bring to them, but to look for something to kind of engage and bring them in. And then the second thing to look out for is like, while they're engaging with you, did they turn back to you to look and see if you have eye contact, to make sure that you're actually looking at what they're telling you to look at? Those are huge things to look out for. And then finally, does your child respond to their name consistently? Is that a child where you're calling them consistently and they have no clue? They're just minding their business and they're not responding to you. Those are three things that if you look out for and you see that they're missing in your child, that may be a reason to dig a little bit further and get further assessment of your child. But if those are in place, and then we're in a good track, right? Because the connection falls in first, and then the words are just trailing behind. So the first thing is stop counting the number of words and start watching for connection. I hope that resonates. And on that YouTube video I recorded with my colleague, we'll break that down even more. The second thing we talked about was that wait and see is not a plan. Like I said in that scenario, a lot of times they'll say, oh, just wait and see, especially if there's that family history of late talkers where grandma's like, it's okay, Uncle talked at 3 years old, there's not a problem, just wait and see. Well, why is this not a plan? The plan is not for you to just wait and see. If your child is really not putting those words together by two, is not really communicating with you, you may want to talk to your pediatrician about it. Not necessarily to give them a label, but for them to start figuring out which way it is. Because you can't tell for sure if I wait and see until 3 or 4 years old, is that going to develop, or is it going to go the other way? So because we're not sure which kids will actually make that progress on their own, it's better to have it checked out, not necessarily to get a full diagnosis or anything, but to at least get a hearing test, make sure your kid is hearing well, or to call early intervention and have someone come in and evaluate them. It is free. You can call, no referral needed. So while it's wait and see, it's an option that I hear a lot. It's an option that not necessarily a good idea because you don't know which way your child will go. So hearing test is an easy way to start and see, just to make sure your kid is hearing. Early intervention can evaluate and see. And guess what? If the child is fine and is one of those who progress on their own, that's fine also. But if your child is one of those who will not progress on their own and need the extra help, the extra help will be given to them. I have seen a lot of kids whose behavior has changed, or they've communication has become clearer and better just based on the fact that they called that early intervention, they evaluated, and the child was able to better communicate their needs. So rather than being and throwing all those tantrums because they can't clearly communicate what they want, and it's like a brick wall, after that intervention, a lot of things change. So wait and see is not a plan. Sometimes I hear this as well, where parents will say, but I hear you. I don't want to get a label. I don't want my child to be labeled. And this last point is for you if you're in that place, because I have seen that a lot where I see red flags, but the parents hesitate because they just don't want that label on their kid. So the third thing I'm going to talk about is that it's not about the label, but it's about a solution, right? Because here's what I mean by that. In the first 2 years of life, the brain is making millions of connections within a second. That's when the brain grows rapidly. That's where the brain is making wiring and connections. So every word, every song, every embrace, everything is being wired. It's the time where the brain is open, most moldable, most teachable. So you want to catch in on that gap. So the fact that we start evaluating and looking for the delays is not because we're looking for a diagnosis or a label, but it's an attempt to catch and correct while the brain is still forming those connections, while the brain is still open. Does it mean that if we don't do it early, it's not going to work? No, it is still going to work. However, it's faster when you catch it around that period where we have that rapid wiring, rapid connections, versus at a later time when they get into school, it takes a little bit more effort. It's like catching it while we're still in construction. We're still trying to put everything together. That's when the wiring takes place versus after the concrete is molded. So yes, you can make changes, but it takes a little bit more effort to make the changes. So I hope this resonates. And if this does, I would like for you to join us at that YouTube series, because we're going to answer lots of questions just like the ones I answered about autism's concerns about behavior and nutrition and things like that. So really, I'll summarize this, what we talked about today. One, if your child is a late talker, stop counting words, start watching on connection. And then two, wait and see is not an option and not a good plan. You want to start taking action so that your child gets what they need. And finally, it's not a label, it's a key. It's a time for you to be able to catch and make the changes necessary while the brain is still open. The last Saturday of this month, I'm also running a workshop. It's a free workshop where we're talking about the growing brain and how screen time affects behavior. I would love to see you there. I'll drop a link in the comment box. Don't forget to register, and I'll see you either on YouTube or on live on the July 25th. Thank you always, as always, for watching, and Dr. Loom. Bye.